Hey, my name is Campan, and I just wanted to tell y'all a little bit about my journey with Jesus. I grew up in the church, but the funny thing is I didn't really know much about Jesus growing up. I mean, I knew the basic Bible stories like David and Goliath and the parting of the Red Sea and stuff like that, but I just didn't know much about who Jesus was. And whenever we moved to Auburn, I got involved with Young Life, and that's really whenever I began to learn about Jesus. And in my junior year, I went to a weekend camp with Young Life, and that's when I really began to own my faith, that I really began to believe that I was a follower of Jesus. Right after that, God started putting people in my life that really needed to be there to help me in my walk with Jesus. One of those is Christopher Slagley, and he just pushes me to be more Christ-like in everything that I do. I also have a great group of friends that I can go to and talk about anything if I'm struggling or if I need prayer for something. It's just great to have that support behind you whenever you're going through something. Another great ministry that I've been a part of that's helped me grow in my faith is a Bible study called Man to Man. And it was meeting at 6 a.m. on Tuesdays at our church for Bible study to learn about what it's like to be a man of Christ, giving examples of that. Two of the most important steps in my journey with Christ have probably been my call to ministry and my call to Uganda. For my call to ministry, it was a few months after I got saved, and I had just started reading the Bible all the way through chronologically. And I picked it up one day over spring break, and I was in Genesis chapter 12, and I began to read. And after those first 3 verses, a thought ran through my head, and it was just like, I can't believe people haven't heard about this. I've got to go tell somebody. And I sat there for a second thinking I was crazy. But about a month later, I was at a retreat, and I realized that I wasn't crazy. That was actually my call to ministry. The following January, I was at Passion 2012 with our college ministry, and that night we were singing songs, and we had gotten to this song, How Great Is Our God, and we were singing it with a ton of people from different countries, singing it in different languages, and it was just one of the most beautiful things I had ever heard. And right after we got done, Louis Giglio got up and he said, I know that God has put a country on all of our hearts. And right then I felt like the Lord just whispered to me, Uganda. And right at that moment I sat there thinking, how am I going to get there? Who am I going to stay with? But most importantly, how am I going to tell my parents about this? In the following months I began to prepare for that journey and what it would look like, and I left in September of this year, or in 2012, and I got back in December. One of my favorite things to do while I was over there was just to go out and play with the kids that couldn't speak English. It was just great because they didn't care what you had to say or anything. They couldn't understand you. They just wanted to play and have a good time, and just for you to be there meant a lot to them. And I learned a really big lesson through that. In 1 John there's a verse that says we need to show our love by what we do, not what we say. And that's just probably one of the biggest lessons I learned while I was there, is that we need to love people and do that with our actions. Jesus he was asked what the most important commandment is, and he told somebody straight up. He said, the greatest commandment is to love God with all your heart and soul and your mind and your strength. And the second one is like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. And that's the biggest lesson I learned while I was in Uganda, is we just need to love people. Right now I'm going to school at Southern Union, going through training to be a Young Life leader, and just trying to get involved with as many ministries as I can here in Auburn. I'm planning on going on a few short-term mission trips while I'm back home, but maybe over the summer I'll do something like I did this past fall, a little bit longer term. You know, I plan on being here for a while, but who knows what's next for me. You know, God may have different plans for me in my life, and I just want to be open to that as I go throughout this process of college. So that's my story.